Good evening, good evening, good evening. We are saying good evening to everyone, giving a minute or so for everyone to get in place. And we will be calling the November 19th, 2025 Asset Management Committee meeting to order at 5 o'clock p.m. Moving on to the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone please stand, face the flag, put the right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Galletta, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Latanya Green,
Present.
Ms. Dara Stewart,
Present.
Ms. Cheryl Matthews,
Present.
Mr. William Perez,
Present.
Mr. John Hughes,
Present.
Ms. Debbie Tate, Mr. Neil Jordan,
Present.
Dr. James Morris,
Present.
Rafael Guzman,
Present.
Serena Bohemian,
Present. Thank you, thank you. Well, and I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of our committee members and express my gratitude for your presence today. Your dedication to the district and the community through your participation in the Asset Management Committee is truly valued and appreciated. My name is Cheryl Matthews, and I'm honored to serve as the chair of the Asset Management Committee. We'd also like to welcome all those in the galley and those that are watching online. It is now my pleasure to introduce our County Administrator, Dr. James Morris. Dr. Morris will share his welcome remarks and provide us with an overview of current priorities and initiatives. Please join me in welcoming Dr. James Morris.
Thank you, Chair Matthews. I wanted to specifically make just some very brief remarks about the importance of this committee and what you do. And I just want to make a connection just so it's very, very clear. This committee offers recommendations on district properties. And I just want to use the Worthington site as an example because that's a piece of property that the district is currently in the process of doing a sale of that piece of property. But the whole idea behind what happened with that property came from this committee. It was a committee who said one of the really smart things that we could do is use that property to expand Center Park. It would be an enrichment to that neighborhood, and that's exactly what's happening. And I just want to point that out as an example to say, yes, this committee offers recommendations, but I just want to tell you how much everyone in the district, every one of our Board of Education members respects the input and respects the recommendations of this committee. Your time is valuable, it's valuable to us, and you're providing a valuable service that guides the decisions that the district makes. And just to conclude, I thank you, I honor you because the work you're doing is very important.
My goodness, thank you, Dr. Morris. That's very nice of you. We're going to move on to item number 5, which is an approval of the minutes of October 18th and the 21st, 2025. May I please get a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. And may I please get a second motion to approve the minutes?
I second.
All right, thank you, Ms. Tate. Ms. Galletta, would you please call the roll to get a motion to approve the minutes?
yes, Ms. Latanya Green,
I approve.
Ms. Dara Stewart,
I approve.
Ms. Cheryl Matthews,
I approve.
Mr. William Perez,
Approve.
Mr. John Hughes,
I approve.
Ms. Debbie Tate,
Approve.
Mr. Neil Jordan.
I approve.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on and proceed to the presentation segment of our meeting. Tonight we have one presentation. The presentation will be a report on the findings and recommendations report for former Highland, Kelso, and Morningside sites. This presentation will be delivered by Serene Abrahamian, Legal Counsel with Orbach, Huff, and Henderson, LLP.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, committee. Thank you for having me. I wanted to share just a little bit of background for the community members who are joining us for the first time tonight as to the process we've been engaging in with the Asset Management Committee recommendation report for these 3 sites. So just by way of background, on September 25, 2025, which was meeting 21 of the committee reviewed as a template and sample a prior recommendation report that had been approved by the committee for the Worthington site, just to provide a little bit of background for potentially what the report for the 3 new sites could look like, and the general outline that it could follow. After reviewing that with a little bit of detail with the committee on October 21, 2025, which was the last Asset Management Committee meeting 23, the committee received a draft report for the former Kelso, Morningside, and Highland sites, again as a draft, and for them to provide their input as to, of course, the structure of it and the content of it, and importantly for the recommendations component. What we've done for this updated report is non-substantive revisions, just to bring the report up to the current time. So I'll just go over those just for the committee's and community's benefit. But again, these are non-substantive changes. So there were some changes made to the page numbers in terms of the font that's used and the size of the font, because we want it to be consistent. And then in addition to that, because we're now on meeting number 24, the meeting 23, which was the last meeting, was added. And some of the meetings that are included and listed on page 3, which I'll go to with the, oh, you're there, thank you, did not have the day of the week listed. So those were all added in order to bring consistency to how that information is being presented. But again, these are non-substantive revisions. At the last meeting, the committee received a very detailed presentation on generally how the report is outlined and prepared. And there is, of course, the opportunity for the report to be broken up in 3 different parts. Right now, it appears as one master report, but that's a discussion I think the committee is going to continue to have tonight as to the best way for this to be presented. But the consensus was at the tail end of the last meeting that sections 1, 2, and 3 would be reviewed tonight for committee input. I did want to point out that section 3 is the fiscal consideration section that does require a little more work and substantive information being incorporated so that the committee can provide their input. So the goal would be to focus on sections 1 and 2, and then of course, to the extent that there are comments around the fiscal considerations to be included, those will be received, and anything else that the committee wants to provide input on, and an updated report will be brought to the next meeting. And of course, I can answer any questions around that. So thank you.
Committee members, as you review, do you have any questions or comments regarding the presentation? We'll just take a moment or so. All right, if there's no comments on section number 6, we'll move on to section 7, which is a discussion on the findings and recommendation report for former Highland, Kelso, and Morningside sites.
Yeah, I think that would be the wise course.
Okay, so just a quick review of section 1. I know the committee's generally familiar with the executive summary section, but it does provide background for the reader as to what the report generally contains and the purpose of it. And then importantly, notes in the third paragraph that with the presentation of the report to the county administrator and board, the committee's duties to provide the district with recommendations regarding the properties is fulfilled, subject to further district inquiries and requests for information. Or if the county administrator elects to seek further recommendations from the committee, which of course, with how things have proceeded with this committee, Dr. Morris has approved bringing more and more properties under the committee's purview. So after each report has been approved by the committee and presented to Dr. Morris, there's been a further action to bring additional properties under the committee's purview. But I did want to point out that that language is in there. And another important point is, of course, if the committee prefers to separate out the reports, then the executive summary would only relate, to that specific property that's being covered in the report. Right now, it's all combined.
Are there any questions on section number 1, the executive summary? All right, if not, we'll move on to section number 2, Asset Management Advisory Committee.
Thank you. So section 2A, which is the Asset Management Advisory Committee statutory mandate, goes through and summarizes the education code sections that govern how the committee conducts its business. So you see there cited in paragraph 1, Education Code Section 17388, which generally expresses what the purpose of the committee is. Section 17389, which describes which which groups must be represented on the committee. And as you all know, there are certain, as you see there, the business community, landowners or renters, persons with expertise in environmental impact reports, etc. There are very specific categories listed in the education code, and there has to be a representative member that represents each of those groups, which of course this committee is comprised of those members. And then reviewing education code section 17390, which A through E on page 3 is what is the committee tasked with, and what are the general duties of the committee, and that's pursuant to section 17390. So again, this section is really just reviewing the statutes that govern how the committee should function.
All right, do we have any questions on section 2A? All right, with no questions or comments, we'll move on to B, which is the Asset Management Advisory Committee formation and membership.
Thank you. So this section reviews the resolution that was approved that established the committee. So this was back in 2022. And then there's a further resolution that was approved at the October board meeting that brings these 3 properties under the committee's purview. That information has to be incorporated. Below that first paragraph, it lists the members of the committee and which representative group they represent. And as we discussed, the representative groups are required and outlined in Education Code 17389. Then below that, there's the officers of the advisory committee that are identified, which is the chair and the vice chair, and then of course the secretary position was delegated to district staff. Then further on in that section, the district staff and team that help assist the committee. And then the next section being all of the meetings that the committee has had, starting from meeting 1, which was Tuesday, October 19, 2022, through on page 4, the last meeting in October, which was meeting 23, Tuesday, October 21, 2025. The section below that is an important one because it does state that all advisory committee meetings were open to the public and conducted pursuant to the Brown Act, which this, similar to board meetings, is conducted under the Brown Act, which means that the public has an opportunity to review agendas at least 72 hours before the meeting and determine whether they want to attend, and they have the opportunity to make public comment. And it does state there where the agendas are typically posted and how the community is notified.
Okay, are there any?
Just a technical question, Ms. Abrahamian. So below that, where it says there were X
Oh, yes.
community
Sorry,
members
I know, I was gonna-
in attendance.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So this does touch on something beyond just the regular meetings, and I did want to cover that. So there is, of course, a public hearing component that's part of this process. Thank you, Dr. Morris. And after the committee makes creates its list of recommendations for, in this case, the 3 sites, the public hearing notice is posted in the way that you see listed there. And then the public has an opportunity to attend that public hearing or public hearings to give their input on the recommendations that have been developed by the committee. And what the report will reflect after that meeting occurs or those meetings occur is how many community members attended and observed that meeting and the number of public comments that were made. But again, that's later in the process, so it hasn't been filled in yet. And of course, we don't know the date of that meeting or those meetings just yet.
Okay, I have a question regarding the 4 locations that we post those here, the public notices. We have outside the district administrative offices, which are currently right here where we are, correct? And then outside the principal's office of each district school. So for each of the schools that we're reviewing, we'll have a posting that would be posted for the parents and for those that are in that part of the community. In the weekly newspaper, do we know which newspapers that we're posting in? And then on the District Advisory Committee webpage, which is the IUSD website? Okay, just so we're kind of clear.
Correct, and I believe that just refers to the public hearing meeting. So our regular meeting agendas are posted on the district website and on each school's website, and they're posted outside the district office. But the newspaper publication is an additional requirement when we hold a official public hearing, not a regular meeting.
So at that time, that'll be filled in on the newspapers that we use. Any other comments or questions, concerns regarding section B? If nothing, then we'll move on to section C, which is Asset Management Advisory Committee, Property and Process.
Okay. The purpose of section C is really for the community's benefit and of course for the committee to provide their input and revise as they see fit. But generally what occurs in these meetings and for each site is that the Asset Management Committee receives certain information so they can develop their recommendations. So if you go, I know there's a big gap in this draft. If you move to page 6, at the top of page 6, it looks like the top of page 5 and then continuing to the top of page 6, it says that the committee received data including step-by-step process for disposition of district property after the board has deemed property surplus. So of course, in this case, the county administrator has not deemed property surplus. This is just information that if would help support recommendations if in fact the recommendation of the committee was that they were going to deem the property surplus. So in that case, there would have to have been a recommendation and information about surplusing. Historic district enrollment data, condition and maintenance reports on the properties, and preliminary estimated valuation data if that's something that the district, if the asset management committee requests. So of course there is that information that to support the recommendations you want to highlight in the report as information that has been received or will be received in order for the recommendations to proceed. And then importantly, it does say under that listing and right before section 3, fiscal considerations, that all of the information that is presented to the committee is also posted on the district's website on the Asset Management Committee page, which includes agendas, presentations, and meeting minutes, which is important for the community so they can follow along with the information that's being provided to the committee.
Awesome. Any questions or concerns regarding this section? Okay, if not, then we'll move on to section 3, which is fiscal considerations for the 3 properties that we're reviewing.
So again, this information has not been filled in yet because it does require more substantive information be added. But Dr. Morris, did you want to?
It's going to ask you to do exactly what you're doing, explain what's needed and what will go in there. Thank you.
Yeah, and then, of course, the committee at the last meeting had made a suggestion that particularly the fiscal considerations be separated by site so it could be a little more robust. But tonight, I think the goal would be if there's anything specific that the committee would like to see reflected in the fiscal consideration section, that discussion can occur and it would be added and brought back to the next meeting. And same for demographic and enrollment data. I know that takes us to section 4, which is beyond what the consensus was to review tonight, but I think based on how this is going, we'll probably proceed further in the report anyway. So to the extent that the committee wants to provide input on any of that, happy to receive it.
I think with the committee's permission, maybe the committee can at least review the section 5, the property characteristics, and see if there's, because everybody on this committee has visited those properties and has seen them. So if maybe we can just read through that section and see if there's any, well, you forgot to mention, or here's suggestions to make sure we're all in agreement with the property overviews descriptions that are provided on page 7 and 8. I don't think so. I think the committee members can just read through them
And for anyone that is not present and doesn't have a copy, there is a copy of this information on the website.
and printed copies are available in the back of the meeting room.
And I will add that a lot of the data and information you see here was pulled from the DCG reports that you all received and the presentations you received from Mr. Graydon. I think it was 2 or 3 meetings ago, the September meeting. September.
Does anyone need more time to review? A little bit? Okay.
Go
I
ahead,
can
Mr.
ask a
Gray.
general question that arose in my thinking as I was looking at the property overview. And this is not pertaining to the whole district, not to bring these properties, but do we have middle schools, or where are the middle schools in this? That's why I don't understand. They got the elementary, I had high school, and I said, well, is Crozier? No. What's going on with middle schools? Yeah.
So all of our current schools are configured transitional kindergarten, which is the year before kindergarten, through 8th grade.
Yeah. Mhm.
So all of the sites are TK8, and then we have 9 through 12 high school.
school, okay.
At Inglewood High School United and the continuation school and City Honors and Iovine and Young. I did want to make one question, bring it up, just because somebody may read this report 10 years from now and say, well, what were they thinking? Under the Morningside property description, should we indicate, add some information about the district's lease of the adjacent acreage, just so if somebody's looking at this as a historical record, it's at least acknowledged there?
Yeah, to provide a full picture. I think that's a good add.
Then kind of along with that, then we have the Kelso property. Should you talk about that sliver of land that belongs to the city?
It is actually
It is in here?
there.
Yeah, I was looking at
Yeah, it talks about
large, let me see.
15-foot alley down the middle of the property.
Where's that? The
The
bottom?
tail end of the first paragraph
Yeah.
in that section.
The last sentence, 15.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Oh, I see that now. Okay, thank you.
Okay, in reviewing the different properties, what jumped out to me the most is I didn't see the address on each of the properties. And is there a reason why we didn't indicate the address? Because when I looked at highlight, I was like, okay, which one is that one? I mean, you know, and then I read it a little bit more.
Thank you for pointing that out. We usually put it, we have it on the cover page, and we usually put it in the very first paragraph to describe the properties, but we're happy to add it there too if you'd like it for, just so it's in one place as far as when we're describing the properties themselves.
It would help, yes, thank you. Appreciate this suggestion for the group. I like it.
Also, one of the things that I was asking Ms. Abrahamian about was the zoning, the designations that we see here, the R1 or the R3 or C3 or C2. Each of the properties, that's what the current zoning is, correct? And if there's any questions or we want to make any changes to the zoning, we would have to go to the city, is that correct? Or do an overlay?
Yeah, correct. That would be a request of the city. I think it's important also just to note, Inglewood is going through the process of updating the Inglewood Next, the city plan. And so it is correct. The city may change zoning on a property. Nothing is firm at this point.
And the items designated here are the current designations of zoning. So that's not to say that it can't be, there can't be a request to the city saying, hey, I'd like to change it from R1 to R3, but it does have to go through a process with the city.
You know, looking at it now, it just seems that we have a lot of flexibility among all of the properties because they're residential and commercials, you know, which gives us a lot more options of what to do with the property, instead of saying one is either yay or nay, you know, so.
I think the good thing is, and hopefully our audience and those at home can appreciate the steps that we are actually going through to make sure that not only are we following the legal requirements with Ms. Abrahamian leading us with that, but we also are each trying to be mindful of what the community has said to us or what you say to us or all of those things. So I welcome you to come and be present for the meetings so that your voice can be heard.
Mr. Guzman, on this particular part at the end, let's say, for example, the Highland property, they all have the same thing, long-term financial and community benefits. When, kind of to piggyback on what Dr. Miller said about 10 years from now, when people look at this particular piece of paper, are we going to give descriptions as to what the potential long-term financial benefits are? And somehow, I don't know how, I see community benefits as subjective, so I'm trying to see how you're gonna quantify that. Page six, under fiscal considerations. I love that term there. I just want more or less an example as to how we're going to do that, because this will help fight the perception that everything is just financial. Because we need to tie the financial part to the subjective part of community benefits, because we can't really measure that unless, I mean, that's my point.
Sure. In any of these properties, we'll look at those specific things. What are the long-term financial benefits, but also how does it benefit the community? And that's really what the asset committee will do. And in formulating the fiscal considerations as this gets built out, that would be outlined on how that can, impact. So, for instance, on a lease, where if we do a lease that frees up funds for general fund, it could be tied to increasing teacher salaries, for example. So those types of things, and that benefits the community by not having better retention rates because we pay our teachers more, or if there's a recommendation to make one of the properties a joint use property where the community benefits, but because part of it is going to be a park, we would delineate how that benefits the community as well. So I don't know, Ms. Abrahamian, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, I'm glad this part hasn't been filled in yet, because this is sample language, and I'm glad that the community benefits part is jumping out at everyone. But hopefully working backwards from what the recommendations are for that site then will help inform what fiscal consideration language gets incorporated here, because as the committee identifies what are their goals and priorities for that site, that informs their recommendations, that will then help the committee develop language for the fiscal consideration section.
I'm comfortable with that, because it's just key so that when people look at it, or as they review it, or as we're speaking, sometimes knowledge can be a bad thing because we think everyone else knows what we know. Mm-hmm. And the reason I bring this up is because everything is always, at least in my small conversations, everyone's always thinking, oh, you guys are just thinking about money and what have you. Well, money is a reality in everything we do, whether it's positive or negative, it's just a reality. But we also want to make sure that, like you said, going backwards, that whomever sees this understands that the overall factor here is community benefit, but we can't benefit the community if we don't have the money to help them. And with whatever the things that are going on in the federal government, the state, and however funding is going to come, that's even more important to keep our eyes on the actual financial aspect of anything here. And I'm with you. I think the softer part, or the important things of students, teachers, and benefiting, all of that is important, but we can't do any of that without that. And unfortunately, we can't rely on the federal government to actually help anything. At least we don't know, at least within these terms. So if this would benefit us, if we can somewhat emphasize it, or any of us when we talk to anybody, to say, yeah, this is important. This is some of the things that we want to look at. So thank you for the explanation. I think that's clear. Thank you.
I think another part of this also is it helps to dispel some of the rumors that are circulating. I've heard one today that we were just holding on to property so it could be gentrified, and I was kind of like, wait, what? This gives clarity, and as we go step by step, we're being transparent. I mean, as you can tell, just the conversation that we have here amongst ourselves, we're trying to make sure that the community understands just as much as we do about the process. So Again, I welcome you to attend.
And I just want to point out again, in response to Mr. Petta's question, the Worthington property, I think is a great example, because we put a request for proposals out, made that property available, and we received, for example, housing developers in response. And fortunately, in that case, the greatest fiscal benefit to the district actually came through a proposal to expand the park, which was completely aligned with one of the committee's priority recommendations. So sometimes it just works out that in the best fiscal interest also seemed to be in the wisdom of this committee, the community's best interest at the same time.
I think that's an important point that we have to, even though we're looking at sites individually and the reflection of the community surrounding the sites, that it is part of an overall district plan. And in that plan, we have to maintain flexibility along with the maximization of financial benefit, because it can't just simply be the maximization of the financial and not be reflective of the community. So that flexibility is very important. So when we're looking at the distribution of funds, we definitely need to look at what provides that flexibility without it funneling into just restrictions that might be financially more profitable, but may reduce our ability to meet needs of the community. So I think it's very important that we look at that.
Maybe, Mr. Guzman, if you wouldn't mind, again, just kind of to reinforce what Mr. Hughes said, talk about proceeds from a sale versus a lease, just to remind everyone once again. And I think it goes along with what Mr. Hughes was saying.
Yeah, so the way things are structured now, all right, if you sell a property, it has, the proceeds of that sale have to be utilized for facilities purposes. And so that's, and there's a specific way that you have to sell a property as well. So the actual end result would end up being that it would go into like a specific reserve fund for facilities that then you could utilize towards repairing or modernizing your facilities, which essentially restricts those funds from being used for general fund purposes. When we say general fund, we mean more funds that are available for really more so anything. And into that, we talk about also salaries and benefits, right? So that's also an important consideration here. And so if you lease a property, those proceeds, depending on the type of lease as well, but those proceeds would essentially go to the general fund, which would then open up a ongoing revenue source that the district could depend on towards, and then could target towards whatever the district priority is. If that happens to be salaries or happens to be eliminating the structural deficit or whatever the case may be, these are funds that the district did not have and would now have ongoing and depend for the entire term of the lease. So if you were to ask me, I would always prefer for mostly everything, I would prefer a lease because it's ongoing revenue to the district. One thing about a sale as well is once you spend the money, you spend the money. It's all gone, right? But if you lease, you basically you continue to have those funds come in, and you kind of build yourself towards it. So that's kind of the distinction.
Is it safe to say that, and not just going one way or the other, but lease will provide us the flexibility that you're looking for? And this makes sense, and you've said it numerous times, but is there any way that towards the end of any of these, there's something in the back where every definition of what a lease would do, what a sale would do, where those funds would go to? The reason this is key is so that everyone understands that, yes, if this happens, here's where the money's going. Then we take away that rumor mill that becomes this monster that we can't control. And then there's nothing that can be said because it's there. It's written. It's part of what the committee said. is part of what the agreement was, and we go from there. What I like about the lease also is it gives us the flexibility to hopefully have the problem where we do need to maybe take some of those leases back, because now we got more students than we can handle. That's the problem that we want. I've kind of, for myself, not for anyone else, I stopped talking about profit when it comes to this kind of budgets here. This is not like my private business where I do need a profit. This is revenue here, and it needs to be driven a certain way. So for me, I stopped seeing it that way. It took me a while, but I kind of stopped seeing it that way, and I understand the flexibility, and I think it's key for the public to understand it, not necessarily agree, but just to understand how it works. And if we can do that, I think that'll clear up a lot of the confusion and a lot of the conversations about you guys are holding on to the property, and I've heard that before, and I've heard other things. One of the biggest rumors I've had to dispel forever is, and I keep forgetting his name, and I should know his name, the gentleman that owns the Clippers. Everybody thinks he owns Morningside. That's the biggest, and I'm not making this up, and you would think it'd be just one person. And wherever you go and they find out you sit in this committee, some of them do watch it, and they don't tell you that they do. And that is the biggest rumor out there. Oh, don't worry, they're just waiting on that. As soon as that high school's done, he's going to take over that. His facilities are going to be there. And I said, man, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I would have seen that already on the paperwork if that were to happen. So this is why this is key. And this is why I love that explanation, and I wish it could go in the back and you said you will. So then that way people know. And they can have the conversation and say, no, they're leasing it. This is why. And that's what we want.
Thank you. We'll make sure to include that in the fiscal considerations section. That's a great idea.
I was going to say, Ms. Abraham, is there a way, without adding 50 pages of education code, to summarize that information?
Yeah, and we actually have a cheat sheet version of it in some of the slides we've presented, so you can just pull from that.
Okay. I was going to ask if maybe the committee would indulge us. I asked us to go on and look at section 5 and kind of skipped over section 4. But I'm wondering, and I'm just going to take a minute, bragging rights for Mr. Guzman, because in the past the district has paid a demographer to do demographic projections. And Mr. Guzman's demographic projections by his secret Rafael Guzman formula are actually more accurate than the professional demographer. And I know you'll redo those demographic projections in January, February timeframe. I'm wondering if it might be good at a meeting after that happens to present that information, and then we could update section 4 based on the most recent demographic projections.
I'd be happy to present and show the projections we have.
I'm wondering, Serena, is there anything else in section 4? If you don't mind, for the committee to just go back and review what's there and what's required in that section.
This information was generally pulled from the last report because meaning the last asset management report, because for the last asset management report, we did update the section to include the most recent enrollment data. So not what Mr. Guzman is updating, but the one that had occurred right before that report was finalized with the committee. And so hopefully this information is correct as far as historically, but I think what will happen is as Mr. Guzman presents his updated information, it'll need to be reflected in these sections. So the goal is to provide, of course, the committee with information about enrollment data so that under the statutes, the rationale for that is, of course, if a district is growing substantially, it doesn't make sense for a committee to determine that property's excess to their needs or school should potentially be closed. It informs the recommendations and informs the committee's work to have the enrollment data in hand.
I'm so sorry. Pretty much this evening, we've kind of reviewed sections 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We know there's some information. We know we'll get an updated demographics report. We know once the committee makes some recommendations on sections 6 and 7, it'll help to flesh out what goes back in the financial considerations, which is good. I almost want to ask the committee if maybe at our next meeting, we could just move ahead and do sections 6 and 7. That'll allow us to go back and kind of fill in the blanks, which moves us pretty close to almost finalizing the report.
I think that's a good suggestion. And on our demographics, where it says transitional kindergarten, can we just put TK? Because a lot of people don't, when they hear TK, they don't know what that means. So we can make sure that we put that there through 12th grade, as well as special education, preschool, and adult education.
Sorry, I missed it, Ms. Matthews. What page are you on?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Your TK.
Yes, please, on page 6. No, under demographics,
First paragraph.
first paragraph, just where it says students from transitional kindergarten, which would be TK, through 12th grade, because as Mr. Jordan was saying, we no longer have a middle school. So, and a lot of people don't know that TK goes through 8th grade, and then 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th is high school. Or, yeah, it kind of went back to where it was when I was coming up. So would everybody be okay with us, okay, us go ahead and we'll go ahead and do 6. You want us to do 6, 7? That's it. That's it, 6 and 7, and we'll pretty much at least be through the preliminary. And if you've ever seen one of Mr. Guzman's, you'll have to see him do one of his demonstrations are so poignant. He has props and he brings in.
What sections are we going to do next time, Mr. Guzman? Which sections will we cover next meeting?
6, 7.
I think we can do that, and we'll give Ms. Abrahamian an opportunity to review some of the things that we did very quickly, and we can move on to the next item.
Just to recap, so that I've captured it all in my notes. The first place, just going in order of the report, that we'll be making changes or additions is fiscal considerations to add the use of proceeds definition, generally how statutorily proceeds can be used, and the flexibility around sale versus lease, or lease versus sale. Let me say that the other way around. And then for the section 4, which is the demographics section, Mr. Guzman will present updated demographics information at the next meeting, which will then be represented in and reflected in the updated report. After the term transitional kindergarten under section 4A demographics, adding the acronym TK.
And I think we might also just add there, just to clarify, based on Mr. Jordan's statement earlier, the district is currently organized in a, TK8 through 9-12 high school pattern. Just so it's spelled out in the report as a kind of introduction to the demographics.
Okay. And section 5, add the property addresses to the property characteristics section within each specific property discussion. For property 3, in the order we have it, which is the Morningside property, add information about the adjacent development for the lease area. And the committee will review sections 6 and 7 at the next meeting.
I think that's about it. If anyone has, if there are no other comments or anything else that needs to be added, we can move on to section 8, item number 8, which is public comments on our agenda items. Is everyone good with us moving forward? All right, moving on to public comments. Members, this portion of the agenda provides an opportunity for members of the public to directly address the committee members on agenda and non-agenda items. A public comment card must be completed and submitted before the beginning of the public comment period. Members of the public who wish to speak about an item on the posted agenda must indicate the item number on the public comment card. 3 minutes will be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 30 minutes for public comment on agenda items and 30 minutes on non-agenda items. If the public comment cards exceed 10 cards per section, the time may be reduced to allowed from 3 minutes to either 2 or 1 minute per person to hear from more speakers. The guidelines for public comment will be in accordance with Board Bylaw 9323. I do want to remind the public that the Brown Act does not allow the committee members to respond to any public comments. Ms. Galletta, do you have any public comments on agenda or non-agenda items?
Yes, we do, Ms. Matthews. We have one public comment on agenda items. The public comment is from Dr. Michael J. Harris. Dr. Harris, would you please come to the podium to address your public comment on agenda items? You have 3 minutes. You may be in.
Alrighty, well, good evening, committee. So I'm Dr. Michael Harris. I'm with LA Christian Academy, and I'm one of the founding members of LA Christian Academy, along with my partners, Mr. Baron Farwell and Mrs. Tiffany Moore. And just want to speak pertaining to the prospective future use or disposition of the Highland property. Mr. Farwell sent a letter to the committee earlier in the month. And so what I'd like to do is just read that letter here to your hearing and for the record. Okay. Dear esteemed board members, I hope this message finds you well. My name is Baron Farwell. I'm one of the founding members of LA Christian Academy. On behalf of our leadership team, I'm writing to formally express our sincere interest in the Highland Elementary School campus. We deeply appreciate the board's thoughtful approach to repurposing this valuable asset. It is our hope that the District Asset Management Advisory Committee will consider partnering with our organization as we share the objective of providing the children of Inglewood with an enhanced and transformative educational experience. Just a little bit about LA Christian Academy. LACA is a mission-driven school dedicated to transforming lives and strengthening communities through high-quality academics rooted in Christian values. Our mission is to equip scholars to pursue academic excellence through Christ-centered education rooted in love. We cultivate the character and purpose our leaders need to transform the world. Our educational model integrates emerging technologies and personalized learning tools to enhance student growth, ensuring that youth gain access to cutting-edge educational resources within their own community. Commitment to community partnership. We believe that the Highland Elementary campus presents a unique opportunity to revitalize an underutilized public asset and transform it into a center of learning, character formation, and community revival. Specifically, our proposal seeks to provide a stable, safe, and uplifting environment for children and families, offer high-quality academics and after-school enrichment programs, integrate character-building curriculum and leadership development, open campus facilities for off-hours adult education classes and community workshops, and create employment and engagement opportunities for local residents through instructional support and partnership roles. LA Christian Academy is committed to partnering with parents, civic leaders, churches, and community organizations to elevate academic outcomes and support Inglewood's youth. I got a couple more lines. But
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. This concludes our public comments for tonight.
And thank you. I just want to, for the committee's edification, and you certainly can take Mr. Harris' comments as you deliberate on your recommendations, but I just want to point out, the district would only waits for the committee's recommendation before doing any response. So I just want to point out the reason that the district doesn't respond is anybody can submit a proposal at any time, but the district doesn't take any action until we've heard from the committee on what your recommendations are.
My question would be, if the public submits anything to the advisory committee, how are we receiving it?
Dr. Morris, I believe with this last round of proposals, I know there were maybe others that were potentially going to come in as well. The goal would be to receive, typically they go to you via email or by mail, and then to the extent that they're going to be shared with the committee, if that's the request, then they're brought to the committee via email or included in the agenda packet for the next meeting so that the community can also review them if
Correct.
that's appropriate.
Yeah, we can do that at the committee's request and say, here's what we've received, and would you advise just sending them to the committee or making it part of the, like a receive and file item on the agenda?
Definitely that they would receive it via email, and then depending on what the committee requests, just generally procedurally, if you'd like it to be part of the agenda packet, it can be included as well.
And just generally, right, we typically will look at like an RFP process when looking at that decision-making process on the properties themselves. So that's something to keep in mind too. For anyone that would like to submit a proposal at some point, right, the district usually will go out and do a whole request for proposals where anyone from any organization could submit a proposal in a formal setting.
And I just want to make sure that all members of the public are welcome at any time to come and offer input that the committee may consider during their deliberation period. It's completely an open process that you can have that information, or you should have that information, what members of the community are thinking.
So I would propose that we do have items that are being submitted, any proposals that are being submitted, that I know they come to you, and maybe we can get them either distributed to us before our meeting so that we have a little bit more time to process, and then included in our agenda so that we know, okay, these items have come in, they're for our consideration. We know that we're not voting, but it's still good to hear what the voice of our community is, and just to be able to keep up. So I would like to propose that we are able to do that.
We're going to call that, without objection, so ordered, Madam Chair.
Okay, any other comments from the committee? We're going to have time for comments or any questions. Okay, I think we've had a good meeting. I think it's been productive. Hopefully our community feels the same. We're moving on to item number 10, which are future meeting dates, and our next meeting will be our last for the year, which will be Tuesday, December 16th at the 5 o'clock hour. If there's nothing further, we'd like to wish everybody a safe and a wonderfully blessed Thanksgiving. Be safe with your families and your friends as you gather. We're going to move on to adjournment, and the meeting will adjourn at 6:01. May I please get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes, and may I get a second motion?
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. Ms. Gaeta, please call the roll to get a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Ms. Latanya Green,
I approve.
Ms. Dara Stewart,
I approve.
Ms. Cheryl Matthews,
I approve.
Mr. William Perez,
Approve.
Mr. John Hughes,
I approve.
Ms. Debbie Tate, and Mr. Neil Jordan.
I approve.
Our meeting stands adjourned.